My name's Grace. If you're looking for a fairy tale, this isn't it. My life has been anything but easy. These days, I'm a microsurgeon, living in a decent house. I've done well for myself, but it wasn't always this way. Let me take you back to the beginning, when life was much harder. I was just 8 years old when my dad passed away. He was the only person who made me feel like I mattered. After he was gone, my mom, Susan, quickly found a new man. Paul, my stepdad, made it clear from day one that he saw me as nothing more than a burden. He never hit me, but his words cut deep. He had a knack for making me feel like I was just in the way. And my mom? She never stood up for me, as if she wasn't even there. Can't you do anything right? Paul would snap at me over the smallest things, laughing too loudly, forgetting the dishes, you name it. Living with him was like being around a ticking time bomb, never knowing what might set him off. When my mom had my little sister Chloe, things got worse. I was excited to have a sister, but Paul saw me as even more of a nuisance. We've got our own kid now. We don't need to waste resources on her, he told my mom, right in front of me. You're just too much, Grace. Always making a mess, always in the way, he'd complain. And my mom? She just nodded, agreeing that I was nothing but a problem. One time, I tore my pants playing outside. A normal kid thing, right? Not to Paul. Look at her. Just can't stay out of trouble. Tearing clothes now. What's next, Susan? She's a disaster, he'd say. Mom's response. Paul's right, Grace. You need to be more careful. We can't afford to keep replacing your clothes. It felt like every little thing I did was a catastrophe to them. My laughter, my tears, just being myself, it was all too much for them. Even as a kid, I understood that I didn't belong in the picture-perfect family Paul and Mom were trying to create. The feeling of being unwanted grew stronger every day. After things fell apart with Paul and Mom, I ended up at Aunt Linda's doorstep. If I thought things couldn't get worse, I was wrong. Aunt Linda, my dad's sister, had this tough demeanor like she could chew you up and spit you out without a second thought. Great, another mouth to feed, she muttered the day I arrived, scared and unsure of what to expect. Her house was a strict, no-nonsense zone where fun didn't exist. And me? I was about to become the newest inmate in Aunt Linda's house. The rules were clear. Follow orders. Don't screw up and maybe you'd get through the day without a lecture. But with me being me, that was a long shot. Can't you do anything right, Grace? Was Aunt Linda's usual greeting, especially if I'd done something small like leaving a light on or not making my bed perfectly. One day, I forgot to take out the trash, a cardinal sin in Linda's house. You're just as useless as your mother, she snapped. Can't even handle a simple task. I'm sorry, Aunt Linda. It won't happen again, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But apologies only fueled her anger. Sorry doesn't cut it, girl. You live under my roof, you follow my rules. Got it? Or is that too hard for you to understand? Her words felt like daggers, each one hitting its pole. It wasn't all bad, though. On days when I managed to stay out of sight, I'd find a quiet corner and escape into books. They were my refuge from the constant criticism. But even that wasn't safe. Reading again. That's not going to get you anywhere. You need to learn something useful, Linda would sneer, as if reading was a waste of time. The worst part wasn't the chores or the strict rules. It was the loneliness. I missed my sister Chloe, and even though Mom and Paul weren't ideal, a part of me longed for something familiar, something like home. But Aunt Linda's place, it felt like a prison. One evening, I tried to cook dinner as a peace offering. I wasn't a chef, but I thought spaghetti wouldn't be too hard. I was wrong. The sauce ended up everywhere but in the pot, a total disaster. Linda walked in, and her face went from calm to furious in a heartbeat. What do you think you're doing? This kitchen is a disaster. I I wanted to help, to make dinner. I mumbled, my attempt at being helpful turning into another failure. Help? You call this helping? You've just made more work for me. Don't ever try this again. You're more trouble than you're worth. She snapped, her words stinging like salt in a wound. That night, I cried myself to sleep, something that had become all too common since I landed in her care. It was clear I was nothing but a burden to her, just like I had been to Mom and Paul. The message was clear. I didn't belong anywhere. The worst part wasn't the chores or the constant criticism. It was the way she made me feel about myself. You're worthless, you know that. No wonder your mom left you here. She's probably relieved to be rid of you. She'd sneer whenever I dared to speak up. I held on to a naive hope that my mom would realize she missed me, that one day she'd come back for me. I used to dream of her showing up at Linda's doorstep, apologizing, and taking me back home. I foolishly believed she still loved me, that maybe she was just too wrapped up in her new family to reach out. One day, desperation took over. I sneaked into Aunt Linda's room and grabbed her phone, my heart pounding as I dialed my mom's number. The phone rang, and I held my breath, hoping for some kind of miracle. Hello. Mom's voice sounded unfamiliar and distant. Mom, it's me, Grace. I miss you, I choked out, tears filling my eyes. There was a pause, a silence that felt endless. Then, Grace, you shouldn't have called. Don't call me again. You don't need me. The line went dead, and so did something inside me. That call shattered any illusion that she cared. I was truly alone. Aunt Linda found out, as she always did. You little thief, how dare you use my phone without permission? She screamed, her face twisted in fury. The punishment was harsh, more for the betrayal than the act itself. That night, as I lay in bed nursing my bruises, both inside and out, a hard truth settled in. My mom didn't love me. She never would. And Aunt Linda's words echoed in my mind, a cruel reminder of my worst fears. No one needs you. After everything with Aunt Linda, I ended up on Grandma Judy's doorstep, my bags feeling like they were filled with rocks instead of clothes. I wasn't sure what to expect. My memories of Grandma were blurry, and Aunt Linda's parting words, "Good luck with her, you'll need it," didn't help. Grandma Judy opened the door, her expression stern, not exactly a warm welcome. "So, you're here," she said, her voice cold, much like Aunt Linda's. "Come in then. We have rules in this house. You'll follow them." The first few weeks were tough. I kept to myself, trying to avoid any trouble. Grandma was strict, her words sharp and unforgiving. Every mistake I made, she was there to point it out. "Can't you do anything right? Your mother didn't teach you much, did she?" She'd snap. But then something changed as the days passed. One evening, while I was struggling with math homework at the kitchen table, she sat down beside me, her tone softer than usual. "Let me see that," she said, taking the pencil from my hand. Math was always my strong suit. It was the first time we did something together that didn't involve a lecture. As we worked through the problems, I noticed something I hadn't seen in a long time, a genuine smile from a family member. "Thanks, Grandma," I said, feeling a warmth I wasn't used to. "Don't thank me yet. You've still got to pass that test," she replied, but the sharpness in her tone was gone. Days turned into months and months into a year. Grandma and I found our rhythm. She taught me how to cook and shared stories about my mom as a child, stories I clung to because they made me feel closer to the woman who had left me behind. "Your mom was wild, always getting into trouble. You've got her spirit," Grandma said one day, with a hint of pride in her voice. During one of our cooking lessons, I finally opened up about how much it hurt to be abandoned by Mom. Grandma listened, really listened, and when I finished, she pulled me into a hug so tight I could hardly breathe. "Your mom made her choices, but they're not on you. You're strong, stronger than you realize, and you're wanted here with me." That was the turning point. For the first time since Dad died, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Grandma wasn't just a relative anymore. She was becoming the family I chose, not just the one I was born into. One evening, out of nowhere, Grandma said, "I've been thinking, how would you feel about making this official? Adoption." I was stunned. The idea of truly belonging to someone again filled me with a mix of hope and disbelief. "You mean it?" I asked, hardly able to believe it. "I've never been more serious about anything," Grandma replied, looking right into my eyes. "I want you to be mine in every way that matters." Turning my life around wasn't easy, but with Grandma Judy's support, I started to see a future for myself, one not defined by my past. Medicine. That was the dream. It sounded crazy at first, even to me, going from feeling worthless to dreaming of becoming a microsurgeon. But Grandma believed in me more than I ever believed in myself. "Medicine, huh?" Grandma raised an eyebrow when I told her, "That's a tough road, Grace. Are you sure?" "Yeah, I am," I said, more to convince myself than her. "I want to do something meaningful, to help people." Grandma nodded, her expression softening. "Then you'll do it, and I'll be right here cheering you on." Getting into medical college was my next big challenge. The books, the late nights, the endless exams. It felt like jumping into the deep end without knowing how to swim. But every time I thought about giving up, I'd remember Grandma's words, her unwavering faith in me. That's what kept me going. The day I got my acceptance letter, Grandma and I sat at the kitchen table, the letter lying between us like a prize. "I knew you could do it," she said, her eyes misty. "I couldn't have done it without you, Grandma," I said, feeling a lump in my throat. "None of that now," she waved it off. "You did the work, kid. You earned this." Medical school was a blur of sleepless nights, relentless studying, and the constant pressure to prove I belonged. I made friends, but I always felt like the odd one out, the girl who had fought her way in from a world they couldn't understand. "Hey, Grace, you coming out with us tonight?" a classmate, Tom, asked one day. "We're celebrating the end of exams." I hesitated, thinking of the mountain of study material waiting for me back at my dorm. "I don't know, Tom. I've got so much to catch up on." "Come on. Everyone needs a break. You aced the exams. If anyone deserves to celebrate, it's you." Maybe he was right. For once, I decided to let go and just be another medical student, not the girl with something to prove. That night, I laughed and danced, feeling lighter than I had in years. But as medical school continued, the challenges only grew tougher. There were times when I felt completely overwhelmed, drowning in knowledge I feared I'd never fully grasp. After one particularly rough day, failing a simulation test, I called Grandma, trying to hold back my tears. "I don't know if I can do this, Grandma. It's just so hard." Grace, her voice was firm but gentle. "You've faced harder things than this. You're going to be an amazing doctor. Now, dry those tears and get back to it. You hear me?" Her words were like a light in the darkness. I dug in, refusing to let this dream slip away. I studied harder, pushed myself further, and slowly, things began to make sense. The day I graduated, Grandma was in the front row, her face glowing with pride. "I told you, didn't I? My granddaughter, the doctor," she said, pulling me into a hug that felt like home. "Thanks, Grandma," I whispered, holding back my tears, "for believing in me when no one else did. Always, Grace, always." Graduating from medical school was a huge milestone, but it was the internship that truly tested me. Long hours, tough cases, and the constant pressure to prove I belonged. Whenever I felt like I was drowning, I'd remember what Grandma Judy taught me about strength and perseverance. "Remember, Grace, it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward," she'd say, her voice a steady presence during those grueling nights at the hospital. Our conversations, whenever I could steal some time away, were my lifeline. We'd sit in her kitchen, sipping tea, as I shared every detail of my day, each success and setback. She'd listen intently and offer her words of wisdom. "You're doing important work, Grace. Healing others, that's a noble path, she'd say, her eyes sparkling with pride. In those moments, I felt like I could conquer anything. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. Just as I was finding my footing, feeling like I was making a real difference, Grandma Judy passed away. It was sudden, a shock that left me reeling. She was my rock, my family, and suddenly, she was gone. Organizing the funeral was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I wanted it to be perfect, a tribute worthy of the incredible woman she was. But as I looked around the chapel, I realized something heartbreaking. There were no blood relatives there, just friends, colleagues, and the many lives Grandma Judy had touched. It was a stark reminder of how alone I truly was in terms of family. Yet, as I stood there delivering the eulogy, I felt a strange sense of strength. Grandma Judy had prepared me well. She taught me to face the world without her, and to do so with grace and courage. After everything, it's just me now, I said, my voice steady even as tears threatened to fall. But I carry a piece of her with me in every life I touch, in every decision I make. She was my family, my everything, and though she's gone, her legacy lives on through me. The silence in my apartment was a rare moment of peace, a break from the chaos of my life. Until the knock came, sharp and insistent, filling the room with a sense of dread. I hesitated, knowing deep down that whatever was on the other side of that door wouldn't bring good news. And I wasn't wrong. Opening the door, I was greeted by the all-too-familiar faces of my past. Susan, my mother, with that practiced smile that never quite reached her eyes. Paul, my stepfather, barely hiding his disdain behind a thin layer of politeness. And Schlo, my half-sister, looking awkward and out of place. Mom didn't waste any time. Grace, darling, we've missed you. It's been too long, she said, her voice sugary, the false affection grating on my nerves. I couldn't help but chuckle. Really? Because it feels just right to me. So, what brings you here after all these years? Paul jumped in. Cut the crap, Susan. We're not here for a family reunion. We're here about Judy's inheritance. The mention of Grandma Judy's name made my chest tighten, a mix of grief and anger swirling inside me. Mom couldn't hide her greed. Grace, we're here for our share of Judy's things. It's only fair, she said, her voice dripping with entitlement. I scoffed at her nerve. Fair? You're talking to me about fair after 19 years of silence. She bristled at that, her eyes narrowing. Don't be ungrateful, Grace. You've done well for yourself, and with Judy's inheritance, it's only right you share. The laughter that escaped me was sharp, almost bitter. Ungrateful. You left me, remember? I owe you nothing. Their audacity was mind-boggling, a harsh reminder of the pain they had caused. Mom's face tightened, a mix of anger and something else, maybe shock. You're rich now, a successful doctor, and Judy's inheritance. You must give us our due or we'll take this to court. We'll claim alimony. That's when I dropped the bombshell. Good luck with that. Judy adopted me, legally. You're nothing to me now. The color drained from her face, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Paul's face darkened, his posture stiff as he stepped closer, his voice low and threatening. You think you've won? You'll regret this, Grace. You haven't seen the last of us. But I wasn't scared of them anymore. I've faced worse. I'm not afraid of you. Now, please leave my apartment, I said, my voice firm. In the wake of my family's shameless demand for a piece of Grandma Judy's inheritance, I naively thought that chapter of my life was over. But I was wrong. Their audacity knew no bounds. They had moved into Judy's house as if it was their birthright. Mrs. Henderson, the watchful neighbor, was the one to break the news to me, her voice laced with concern over the phone. Grace, dear, I thought you should know. There are people living in your grandma's house. It didn't seem right not to tell you. Fueled by a mix of anger and loyalty to Judy's memory, I went to confront them. They were lounging in the living room, acting like they belonged in a place that wasn't theirs. What the hell do you think you're doing here? I demanded, keeping my anger in check. Paul, ever the provocateur, sprawled on the sofa with a smirk that made my blood boil. Oh, look who decided to show up. We're just making ourselves comfortable, since we're family and all, he sneered, dripping with unwarranted entitlement. Their audacity was unreal. You're no family of mine, and you don't belong here. This is my property, legally left to me by Grandma Judy. You need to leave now. I fired back, refusing to back down. Mom, with her twisted sense of reality, jumped in. Don't be so dramatic, Grace. We're just here for what's rightfully ours. Judy would have wanted it that way. Her attempt to twist Judy's wishes was pathetic. You have no idea what Judy wanted. You weren't there for her. You have no claim here. And if you don't leave, I'll call the police, I warned, my patience nearly gone. The threat hit its Paul. Paul stood up, trying to intimidate me with his size, but those tactics didn't work on me anymore. You wouldn't dare. He bluffed, but his confidence wavered. Try me. You have until the end of the day. If you're not out by then, the authorities will be here, I said, my voice resolute. They realized then that the scared girl they once knew was gone, replaced by someone they couldn't bully. They left, not in triumph, but with the realization that they had underestimated me. As they drove away, I felt a mix of victory and exhaustion, drained from dealing with their relentless greed. For a few days after, a sense of peace began to settle in, but that calm was shattered by a call from Mrs. Henderson. Grace, dear, you need to come over. Someone's broken the windows at your grandma's place. I rushed over, and the sight of the shattered glass was a harsh reminder of my family's spite. I bet it was Paul, I muttered, my suspicions voiced without proof. Mrs. Henderson, ever vigilant, offered a glimmer of hope. You know, I've got those cameras installed. They point right over here. Maybe we caught who did it. Together, we reviewed the footage, the grainy images revealing the unmistakable figure of my stepfather, stones in hand, malice in his every move. With the evidence in hand, I made my next call to the police. I explained the situation, my voice steady, the proof undeniable. I have video evidence of my stepfather vandalizing the property. He's caused significant damage. The officer on the line was sympathetic, promising swift action. We'll take care of it, ma'am. We have enough to bring him in. True to their word, the police acted, and Paul was detained, finally facing the consequences of his actions. Faced with the threat of legal repercussions, my mother and stepfather did what they always did when cornered. They disappeared. In the aftermath, the silence at Grandma Judy's house felt different. It wasn't the oppressive silence of abandonment, but the peaceful quiet of resolution. The broken windows would be repaired, not just as a physical fix, but as a symbol of my own healing from years of neglect and manipulation.
Hello there, I'm Stacy, a 37-year-old wife and mom. My husband Eric and I were hosting a family event at our home to welcome back none other than the infamous Uncle Isaac, my brother-in-law, after his 5-year stint in the slammer. Yes, you heard that right, prison, the big house. But before you start judging him and our family, know that Isaac had been falsely imprisoned. He was at the wrong place at the wrong time. It took 5 long years of fighting for his case to finally be reviewed properly and for him to be exonerated. You can imagine the excitement in the air as we prepared to reunite the family. The party was in full swing, and everyone seemed to be having a grand old time. Isaac was, of course, the center of attention, catching up with everyone and regaling us with stories from his time behind bars. He had a special bond with my daughter Wendy, who used to be close to him before the unfortunate incident that led to his incarceration. Laughter and animated conversations filled the house, and the aroma of delicious food permeated the air as we indulged in a feast fit for a king. It was a rare moment of joy and togetherness for our family, and I relished the warmth it brought to my heart. After the event, as everyone left, we were still buzzing with excitement, grateful to see Isaac alive, happy, and well after his unjust imprisonment. Life resumed its usual rhythm, and it seemed like the storm of family drama had subsided, at least temporarily. However, the elation following Isaac's return was short-lived. A couple of days after the event, as I sat in the living room engrossed in a book, Wendy burst through the door with a look of fear and anger etched across her face. Startled, I quickly put my book aside and rushed to her side. "Wendy, what's wrong? You look terrified. Talk to me." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she gasped for breath. "Mom, I found a hidden camera in one of my plants." My heart skipped a beat and a wave of dread washed over me. A hidden camera in my daughter's sanctuary? Anger surged within me, but I had to remain calm for Wendy's sake. We made our way to her room, my mind racing with a million thoughts and questions. Sure enough, there it was, concealed amidst the lush foliage of her favorite plant. A tiny camera peering into her private moments, violating her sense of security. How long had this camera been there? I felt a mixture of disgust, fear, and anger bubbling up inside me. Without wasting a moment, I called Eric, my voice trembling with a mix of emotions, and relayed the horrifying news. "Eric, you won't believe what I've just discovered. There's a hidden camera in Wendy's room. We need to do something about this now." His voice held a mix of concern and fury. "I'll be right there, Stacy. We're not going to let this go. Our daughter deserves her privacy, and whoever is responsible for this will face the consequences." As we waited for Eric to arrive, Wendy clung to me, her tears dampening my shirt. She blamed herself for not noticing the intrusion sooner, but I reassured her that it wasn't her fault. I vowed to stand by her side and get to the bottom of this unsettling ordeal. When Eric finally joined us, his eyes mirrored our emotions, a simmering rage masked by a controlled exterior. We examined the camera meticulously, looking for any clues that could lead us to the perpetrator. It was a violation of trust that cut deep, and we were determined to uncover the truth. The invasion of our sanctuary shattered the illusion of safety we had built around our family. We had to act swiftly, not only for our daughter's well-being, but also to protect our sense of security. If Wendy found one camera in her room, who knows how many other cameras could be lurking around our home? "We won't rest until we find out who did this, Wendy. Don't you worry." "Thanks, Mom. If you don't mind, could I please take a nap in the guest room? I don't feel comfortable in mine, and I'm exhausted right now." "Of course, my baby. Do what makes you feel comfortable. I'm so sorry." Wendy trudged to the guest room, undoubtedly wanting some alone time after her privacy had been invaded so maliciously. Who would do such a thing? "We'll review the footage, gather any evidence we might find, and involve the authorities if necessary. No one messes with our family like this." Although I was shaken, I found solace in our united front. Eric and I sat down in the quiet of our living room, the weight of the situation hanging heavy in the air. Our minds swirled with thoughts, trying to piece together the puzzle of who could have planted the hidden camera in Wendy's room. As we explored the possibilities, one name surfaced and lingered: Isaac. I began cautiously, trying to keep my voice level. It's hard to ignore the timing. The camera was most likely planted during the family gathering, and who had the opportunity? Isaac. "Stacy, you can't seriously think Isaac would stoop so low. Yes, he made some mistakes in the past, but he's not a creep. He's my brother, for crying out loud." I understood Eric's reaction. Family ties run deep, and the idea of suspecting one's kin of such a violation is unfathomable. However, I couldn't ignore the pieces of the puzzle that seemed to align with Isaac's presence during the family gathering. Prison changes people, and the prolonged interactions between Wendy and Uncle Isaac were ringing alarm bells in both Eric and me, even if Eric was too stubborn to admit it. Gathering my thoughts, I spoke gently but firmly. "Eric, I know it's difficult to consider, but we have to face the facts. He spent a significant amount of time with Wendy during the gathering, suggesting somewhat of an interest in her. And let's not forget that he just came out of prison. People change, and their actions can be influenced by their experiences. It's our responsibility to protect our daughter, even if it means questioning those closest to us." Eric's shoulders slumped as the weight of the situation bore down on him. He looked torn between loyalty and the cold hard facts. Slowly he nodded, his voice tinged with a mix of resignation and discomfort. "I don't want to believe it, Stacy, but you're right. The timing is uncanny, and it's hard to ignore. We need to find out the truth for Wendy's sake." The thought of confronting Isaac about this betrayal gnawed at our conscience, but it had to be done. The sanctity of our home and the well-being of our daughter depended on it. As we prepared ourselves for the difficult task ahead, we promised each other that we would approach this with caution and compassion. We needed to uncover the truth, not only for our peace of mind, but also to protect Wendy from any further harm. Days turned into nights, and Eric remained torn between loyalty to his brother and the unsettling suspicion that hung in the air. The weight of the situation pressed upon us, straining our relationship with Isaac and casting a shadow over our family. As we navigated the treacherous waters of uncertainty, a plan began to form in my mind, a risky yet necessary plan to catch the culprit red-handed. I approached Eric with my idea, explaining that hosting another family gathering might be the key to uncovering the truth. Think about it, Eric. Whoever planted that camera would most likely seize any opportunity to retrieve it. This event, purely meant for family togetherness, presents the perfect chance for the culprit to strike again. Eric hesitated, his emotions still tangled in a web of conflicting loyalties. But as I laid out the logic and the urgency of our situation, he eventually agreed that we needed to exhaust all possibilities before involving the authorities. It was a difficult decision, but one we had to make to safeguard our family and restore our sense of security. I picked up the phone and dialed Tina, number, Isaac's wife. Hey Tina, we were thinking of hosting another family get-together. Just wanted to see if you and Isaac would be available. Tina, response was almost too enthusiastic. She eagerly agreed, expressing her excitement for yet another family gathering. It struck me as a bit odd, considering she was normally the reserved type, but I pushed those thoughts aside, attributing her behavior to a genuine love for family bonding. With the plan set in motion, Eric and I busied ourselves with the preparations. Our home once again became a hub of anticipation and unease. Every nook and cranny was checked and rechecked for any signs of intrusion. We aimed to create an atmosphere of normalcy, hiding our true intentions beneath layers of hospitality and warmth. The stakes were high, and the fate of our family hung in the balance. As the day of the gathering approached, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anxiety and determination. We were walking a tightrope, unsure of what awaited us at the other end, but we were ready to face it head-on to protect our daughter and ensure the sanctity of our home. The day of the gathering arrived, and the familiar faces of our family members filled our home once again. The air crackled with anticipation, but beneath the surface, tension simmered. Uncle Isaac, ever the charismatic figure, greeted everyone with his charm. But his warmth was met with icy reserve from both Eric and me. Our suspicions hung heavy between us, casting a somber shadow over the event. To ensure Wendy's safety and protect her from any potential harm, we made the difficult decision to keep her away from the gathering by sending her on a sleepover at a friend's house. We assured her that it was for the best, not revealing the true nature of our fears. With her absence, our focus sharpened, and we resolved to keep a vigilant eye on anyone venturing in the direction of Wendy's room. As the party swung into motion, laughter and conversation filled the air, camouflaging our underlying mission. Eric and I played the role of gracious hosts, all the while scanning the crowd for any signs of suspicious behavior. Our sleuth game was on point. The night progressed, the rhythm of music and dance providing a backdrop to our hidden agenda. Amidst the festivities, I couldn't help but notice Tina's peculiar movements. She frequently excused herself, disappearing into the bathroom with a sense of urgency. My instincts sharpened, and I couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that something was amiss. Curiosity getting the better of me, I decided to approach Tina. As she made her way towards the bathroom once again, I followed discreetly, my heart pounding in my chest. To my surprise, instead of entering the bathroom, she veered off into Wendy's room. Panic welled up inside me, and I knew I had to confront her to uncover the truth hidden within the depths of her actions. Stepping forward, I called out her name, my voice holding a mix of accusation and concern, mirroring the conflicting emotions swirling within me. Tina, what are you doing in Wendy's room? Startled Tina turned around, her eyes darting around the room searching for an escape, but there was nowhere to hide from the truth. The silence between us grew heavy, pregnant with unspoken accusations. I asked you a question, Tina. What are you doing in my daughter's room? Tina, composure cracked, and tears welled up in her eyes. Her voice trembled as she stammered. I was just looking for Wendy. I was surprised that she didn't join us for the festivities this time. You were looking for her in her drawers, I said, my voice laced with incredulity. Tina looked down to find her hands still firmly planted in the drawer she was rummaging through. I can explain. Save it. The one person we least expected, the one we had defended vehemently, had betrayed our trust. The room spun with a mixture of disbelief and disappointment. At that moment, I beckoned to Eric, who was not too far from me, and he hurried over, assuming that we had caught Isaac in Wendy's room. His jaw dropped when he saw that it was Tina. You planted that camera, didn't you? Why, Tina? Why would you do such a thing? Eric wasted no time and called Isaac over to Wendy's room, his voice firm and commanding. Isaac, sensing the urgency in his brother's tone, hurriedly made his way to the room, confusion etched on his face. What's going on? He asked. As Isaac entered the room, his eyes fell upon Tina, tears streaming down her face. Before he could utter another word, Eric quietly closed the door behind us, shielding the rest of the party from the unfolding drama. I took a deep breath, my voice steady as I began to explain everything. I recounted the shocking discovery of the camera in Wendy's room, the hidden invasion of our privacy that had shattered our trust. My words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of the truth. We organized this gathering, Isaac, to catch the person responsible for planting the camera, and in all honesty, we suspected you initially. I'm so sorry, bro, I never should have doubted you. I just thought, with prison and all. Stop, it was mainly me who accused you, Isaac. I'm so sorry, but after I caught Tina, and here, I knew that you had nothing to do with it. Isaac's brows furrowed, his eyes flickering between Eric, Tina, and me. Confusion lingered in his gaze as his mind tried to grasp the gravity of the situation. He turned to Tina, seeking answers. Tina, why were you in Wendy's room? What's happening? We found Tina, rummaging through Wendy's belongings. She was the one who left the camera in there. Now that everyone was present, I looked at Tina and demanded, Tina, you need to explain yourself. Why would you do something like this? Tina, shoulders slumped as she looked at us, the weight of her actions clearly bearing down on her. Through her tears, she began to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. I did it because I was jealous. Wendy is such a bright, beautiful girl, and seeing how everyone loves her, especially Isaac, I felt invisible. I thought if I could find something to tarnish her image, maybe I would feel better about myself. But I know now how wrong I was. I'm so sorry. The room fell into a stunned silence. The magnitude of Tina, betrayal and the pain it had caused was immense. Despite the hurt and anger, Eric and I knew we had to address this with compassion for the sake of our family. We'll need to involve the authorities, Eric said quietly, but first, we need to make sure Wendy is safe and knows that none of this is her fault. Isaac looked at Tina, a mixture of sadness and disappointment in his eyes. We'll get through this, but you need to understand the gravity of what you've done. Tina nodded, her tears flowing freely now, as she began to comprehend the full extent of her actions. The road ahead would be difficult, but our family's bond was strong, and we were determined to face it together, to heal and protect each other from any further harm. Tina, eyes darted around the room, seeking solace in her husband's support. But Isaac's face mirrored the shock and confusion that had gripped the room. He couldn't fathom why Tina would resort to such invasive measures, especially against her own family. Fine, you caught me. Yes, it was me who left the camera in Wendy's room. I was coming here to retrieve it. We know that. We caught you. We just want to know why, I demanded. It's because I'm jealous, okay. Tina. Confession hung in the air, her motives laid bare for all to see. She admitted, with a mixture of shame and frustration, that her actions stemmed from jealousy of Wendy. She had noticed Isaac and Wendy conversing frequently during the previous family gathering, which ignited the spark of envy within her. She questioned what made Wendy so special, what drew Isaac's attention and affection towards her. Isaac couldn't help but interject, his voice laced with both defensiveness and genuine concern. Tina, you know I love Wendy, but not in a creepy way or anything like that. Being an uncle is important to me. I was simply checking up on Wendy, making sure she was doing well. It was out of love and family concern, nothing sinister or inappropriate. You know that. Oh yeah, then why were you always praising Wendy, going on and on about how amazing she is and how well she's doing in school? It made me wonder what was so special about her. So you're acting crazy because I'm a proud uncle. Tana, tell me, is there something wrong with being a proud uncle? I have every right to appreciate and support Wendy. It's not about favoritism or anything more than genuine love for my niece. I didn't think that you feel this way, Tana mumbled. Trying to navigate through the tumultuous emotions in the room, I directed my attention to Tina. What were you hoping to uncover by planting the camera? What did you expect to find exactly? I just wanted to see how Wendy lives her life. Maybe if I could understand her better and emulate her actions, I could gain the same praise and attention from you, Isaac. I wanted to feel valued like her. You're jealous of a teenager. How low can you sink? This is beyond messed up, Eric said, his voice filled with disgust. After a silence that could put a library to shame, Eric decided to pull the plug on the party. It was a good call. The last thing we needed was to keep a party going after discovering Tina, true nature as the resident creep of the year. With the room now cleared of all the relatives, it was just Eric and me left to grapple with the aftermath of Tina. Little escapade. It wasn't a pretty sight. I let loose on Tina, unleashing a verbal barrage that could make a sailor blush. Who does that? Who plants a damn camera in their niece's room? Sick in the head, that's who. Isaac stood there like a lost puppy, disappointment etched all over his face. I guess he couldn't fathom what kind of twisted game his beloved wife was playing. Can't say I blame him. I might be equally dumbfounded if my better half turned out to be a grade A lunatic. As the dust settled and our emotions ran dry, Eric and I found ourselves sitting in our once cheerful home, now tainted by the sinister acts of one family member. The next day, when Wendy came home, it was my job to spill the beans, to expose the whole twisted truth. Wendy's eyes welled up with tears as I recounted the heinous violation of her privacy. The poor girl, innocent and unsuspecting, couldn't fathom that someone in our own family could stoop so low. Trust shattered. Her world turned upside down in an instant. She managed to choke out the words, her voice trembling with hurt and confusion. Mom, I never thought that anyone would do this to me. Tina? Seriously. I shook my head, unable to wrap my mind around it. Believe me, Wendy, none of us saw this coming. Tina, gone off the deep end for sure. With Wendy in my arms, her tears staining my shoulder, I made her a promise. We're going to fight back. Pressing charges is just the beginning. Tina needs a reality check, and we're more than willing to deliver it. Her tearful gaze met mine, seeking reassurance. But Mom, what about Uncle Isaac? How is he doing? I sighed, the weight of our shattered family hanging heavy in the air. If I'm being honest, he's not taking it well. He feels like he can't truly celebrate his freedom, knowing that he's married to a nut job. So what does that mean? Is he getting a divorce? I don't have baby. Oh, I hate what she's done to this family. Same. Right now, our priority is your safety. We're getting a restraining order against Tina, so she won't even dare to think about crossing your path again. We're in the process of pressing charges and obtaining a restraining order against Tina, the camera-wielding menace. Meanwhile, the once inseparable bond between Isaac and our family remains strained, shattered by the weight of this unimaginable betrayal. It's a painful and awkward silence that hangs between us, a reminder of the depths to which one person's jealousy can sink. But through it all, we remain steadfast, determined to rebuild, to heal, and to find solace in the love and support of those who truly matter. The road to recovery may be long and arduous, but we are ready to face whatever lies ahead, armed with the knowledge that our family's strength will prevail. I grew up in a middle-income family. Both of my parents had decent jobs, but they had 6 mouths to feed: themselves, me, and my 3 siblings. So we struggled a bit. Hand-me-down clothes were normal, and we often ate frozen and cheap meals. We only had a house because my grandmother left it to my dad. We lived in a nice neighborhood with families ranging from middle to high income. When I was born, the house next to ours was empty for a few years until a new family moved in. They had a son, John, who was my age. He was the only kid in the neighborhood my age, so even though he was homeschooled and I went to public school, our parents made sure we hung out together. His parents welcomed me, and John and I became close friends. Since I went to public school, I helped John learn to socialize with kids his age. His dad, William, appreciated this a lot, even though he didn't say it directly. Instead, he would send me home with food for my family and buy us small gifts. John's mom, Margaret, didn't like me as much. She thought William was too nice to me and not nice enough to their son. She made snide remarks and tried to stop William from giving me things. But he wouldn't listen and sometimes gave me even more just to spite her. This caused a lot of fights between them, which made John withdraw more. After months, I got him to open up to me when we were 13. We grew closer over the years, and I developed feelings for him, but never acted on them. When we were 17, John came to my house looking very upset after a huge fight with his mom. He told me she had said something really hurtful, but he couldn't bring himself to tell me what it was. I comforted him and reminded him to not let his anger ruin his relationship with his family, not knowing the full truth of their situation. After high school, we both went to the same college. I attended classes while John did distance learning. I had saved up enough money from working since I was 16 to rent an apartment with a bit of help from William. This allowed John and me to spend more time together without our parents around. Eventually, we realized we had strong feelings for each other and started dating. My parents were thrilled, while John's parents had more neutral reactions. William calmly congratulated us, and Margaret grunted in disapproval. We decided not to focus on his mother's reaction. After graduating college, John proposed to me and we got married within the year. I felt like I had won at life. My childhood best friend was now my husband. He was there for me from the start, and I loved him deeply. After we got married, John traveled a lot for work. He didn't want me to be alone, so he asked me to move in with his parents. I was hesitant because his mom never liked me, but John convinced me. I don't know about moving in with your parents. Your mom's never been a fan of me. I know, but we'd have our own space, a whole floor to ourselves. I want you to be safe, and being with my family will put my mind at ease. It's almost like living alone. They could visit, or I could visit them if they want. All right, if it means that much to you, I'll give it a shot. But I hope it doesn't make things worse. Thanks, babe. I promise I'll do my best to make sure everything goes smoothly. I knew his reasoning made no sense, but I agreed to make him feel better. Plus, my parents lived next door, so I could always go there if things got tough. The next month, we moved in with his parents. Quickly, I realized John hadn't been completely honest. I wasn't going to be alone with his parents. I'd be alone with his mother, Margaret, whenever John went on business trips at his dad's command. This meant I was stuck with the woman who hated me for days or weeks at a time. Margaret mostly made rude comments and sometimes didn't make food for me, even after asking what I wanted to eat. I'd usually be too tired from work to care, so I'd make a quick meal or order in. As long as I stayed in my room, nothing major happened. One day, John called and asked me to find a file in his office and scan it for him. While searching through his messy drawers, I noticed one felt different. It had a false bottom. Curiosity got the best of me, and I opened it to find a paternity test. It showed that William wasn't John's father. I was shocked. I never questioned John's paternity because he looked just like his mother. I wondered if William knew. Before my thoughts spiraled further, I took a picture of the test, put everything back, found the file John needed, sent him the scans, and went to my room. I spent hours trying not to think about what I'd just learned. I wanted to talk to John, but I preferred to do it in person. Just as I started to calm down, Margaret knocked on my door. "Come in." She entered with a scowl. "Yes, how can I help?" "Spare me the act. I know you found out our secret." "What are you talking about?" "Don't play games. I saw the false bottom open. I know you read the document." "Fine, you got me. But tell me, does William know?" "That old Jizu doesn't know a thing. If he did, we'd be on the streets. All he ever wanted was in here. I got away with John not being his only because John looks like me. How could you deceive him after all he's done for you?" "Spare me your moral judgments. I'm not the only one betraying him. John's in on it too. He's used to this lifestyle and won't let it go." "That can't be right. What if I tell William everything?" "Oh please, you think you can ruin our game of pretend? I'd make William believe you're lying to cause chaos. He'll choose us over you any day. You won't get away with this forever. The truth will come out. Save your fairy tales for someone who cares. Good luck with that." She walked out, and my heart pounded. Margaret had answered all my questions. I was disgusted with both of them. How could John deceive the man who raised him? How long had he known? Did he feel any remorse? Would he go along with Margaret's plan to leave me? I barely slept that night, consumed by my thoughts. The next day passed in a haze. William had returned from his work trip, and I couldn't look him in the eye because of how guilty I felt. I wanted to tell him everything, but I knew that if I tried, Margaret would find a way to turn the tables on me and make me the bad guy. That night, William asked the three of us to have dinner together. I silently ate my food except when William asked me questions about work. At some point during dinner, Margaret brought up wanting to go on a vacation with John. William, I've been missing John, and I think it'll be a great idea for us to go on a 2-week trip to Italy together. John has been working hard. He does deserve a break. Doesn't John have a lot of work commitments? I mean, I'm no expert, but won't his absence affect the business? Please, William managed the business for years before John joined. A short break won't hurt. That's true, and John could use some time off. All right, you can go, and I'll handle things here. Thank you, dear Maria. Why don't you join them? Oh, that won't work. It's supposed to be a mother-son bonding time. Besides, I feel like a third wheel. Well, what do you think, Maria? Would you like to join them? Oh, she probably has her own plans. Don't worry about her. Let's allow Maria to make that decision. I knew why Margaret wanted to go on this trip. I was about to say that I wasn't okay with it, but I felt a sharp kick in my shin. I winced in pain as I realized that Margaret had kicked me under the table. I looked at her and noticed her sharp glare. I wanted to tell on her so badly, but I knew it wouldn't lead anywhere. Then I had a brilliant idea. I could use their time away to tell William everything. So I shut my mouth and nodded that I was okay with the trip. Margaret looked satisfied, and William told her she was free to go. That night, I called John and asked him about the trip. Are you going on this trip with your mother? Yeah, I don't really have a choice. That's not true. You do have a choice. You can choose not to go along with her plans. Everything is so messed up, and honestly, a lot of it is because of you. What do you mean? How is any of this my fault? If you had respected my privacy back then, none of this would have happened. There's a reason I didn't tell you about everything. When did you even find out you're not William's son? Remember a couple of years ago when I came over to your place really distressed because of a huge fight I had with my mom? Yeah, she dropped that bomb on me during that fight. Did you consider telling William about it? I did. I even threatened her to spill the secret, but she laughed it off, saying if I told William, he'd throw us out. So we're stuck keeping this secret. Now that you know, I can't keep you around anymore. Did our relationship mean anything to you at all? Of course it did. But when you found out about the secret, I knew I had to let you go. Your strong conscience could ruin everything I've been working for. With that, he hung up the call. I couldn't believe this was the man I had loved. Was this always a part of him, or had he become this way out of greed? I cried myself to sleep that night, feeling betrayed and heartbroken. How could he let go of me so easily? I had treated him like the most precious thing, while he saw me as disposable. I woke the next morning fully ready to take revenge. John had returned home that morning and silently packed his bags for his vacation. He and Margaret were set to leave in the afternoon. I didn't spare him a glance. My heart hurt, but I knew I was doing the right thing. William had gone on another short business trip for the next 2 days, so I had to wait for him to come back to start my plan. After John and Margaret left, I busied myself by looking through their stuff. Unsurprisingly, the false bottom in John's drawer was empty. Margaret must have gotten rid of the file. It was okay though, I had a picture of it. I waited to collect evidence of what John and Margaret were up to, and sure enough, John posted stories on his private Instagram account, which only his closest friends and family followed. He posted stories of him going on dates with multiple other women and even posted a story thanking his mother for introducing him to so many wonderful women. Even though my heart was breaking and anger was boiling under my skin, I took screenshots of every story. Then I called William and told him I had an emergency and needed him home immediately. William assured me he would be home by nighttime. True to his word, he showed up by 9:00 p.m. He hurried over to me and asked if everything was okay. I told him that I was not okay and revealed the real reason why Margaret and John had gone on that trip, to find John a new wife. William looked shocked and asked if I was serious. I showed him the screenshots. William's shock turned to anger and disgust. He stuttered as he asked why they would do this. I told him I had something important to tell him but needed him to sit down for it. He sat down and fearfully asked what I had to say. I took out the printout of the picture of the paternity test and showed it to him. William sat there silently for a while, processing what he was reading. I gave him some time before telling him everything I had found out in the past few days. William's hurt turned to anger. Without a word, he called up his banks and canceled his credit cards, knowing that Margaret and John depended on them for their travel expenses. He also canceled John's office card, so they had no money that way either. Once he was done, William felt slightly calmer. I apologized for throwing everything at him at once. I'm so sorry, William. None of this should have happened. There's no need for you to apologize. I never imagined Margaret could go to such lengths. I'm glad this revelation happened while I'm still in control of the business. What are your plans now? I'm worried John and Margaret might try to come back. I've made up my mind. I'm going to divorce Margaret and remove both of them from this house. I'm with you on the divorce. I'll also file one against John. I'll move out too. No, Maria, you're not going anywhere. If you're willing, I'd like to pass the business down to you. I've always seen you as a daughter, and I trust you to carry on the legacy. William, I don't know what to say. I'd be honored to continue what you've built. That's settled then. We'll make this right together, Maria. The days after that were filled with sadness and anger. William filed for divorce, and so did I. Margaret and John tried contacting us, but neither of us picked up the calls or answered the texts. William managed to pull some strings and got us both restraining orders against Margaret and John. When the calls got too annoying, I finally picked up. What the hell did you tell my dad, Maria? I haven't said anything to him. Then why are his cards canceled and our numbers blocked? What have you done? I didn't tell him anything. I just showed him the proof. That's impossible. I burned it all. Not everything. I had enough evidence. I took a photo of the document you thought you destroyed. You're heartless for doing this to us. Huh? You're the heartless one. You and Margaret chose to keep this secret from William. You have to face the consequences of your actions. You're tearing our family apart. No, you're doing it. It's the truth that's finally coming out. It's time to take responsibility. I hung up the call and blocked John and Margaret. In the weeks that followed, William and I sent our divorce papers to our respective partners. William had all of John's and Margaret's things packed and put away in a storage facility. He gave them 1 month to show up and take their things, or they would have to pay to keep their belongings there. I quit my job and began focusing on working with William. It was hard for both of us to forget everything that had happened. But we knew that at the end of the day, we still had each other. I began to enjoy work, and the benefits I got from working with William were only a bonus. So that is my story. Thank you for listening till the end. I hope that no matter what life throws your way, you always remember to do what's right, because you never know how life will reward you. Hello, wonderful folks. I'm Victoria, and I'm one of the older members here. I see many of you sharing stories about your horrible mothers-in-law, and I feel for you. I was fortunate to have an amazing mother-in-law and always strived to be like her. So when my son Daniel introduced me to his girlfriend, Melissa, I was warm and welcoming. As a middle-class widow with no one except my son, I was excited to welcome Melissa into our family. However, she wasn't interested in having a relationship with me. I tried to arrange lunches and dinners, but she always declined, saying we had different tastes. Victoria, I don't think it's a good idea for us to go out, Melissa would say. It's okay, Melissa. I know I'm old, but I can still adapt. Maybe you can teach me a few things, I responded, hopeful. It's not about your age, Victoria. It's about your class. You're just a poor old lady comfortable with a trashy lifestyle. I'm not so cheap as you. I'm just glad Daniel didn't turn out like you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dated him. My parents and I belong to the upper class, and I just can't mix with anyone beneath us. I hope you understand and stop trying to get close to me. It just won't happen. To say I was hurt would be an understatement. I had hoped for a good relationship with my daughter-in-law, but she thought I was beneath her. I lost my husband at a young age and raised my son alone. I never remarried because my husband was everything to me. I remained poor but did my best to give Daniel everything he needed. He is a great son who made it big in the world and often offered to help me, but I always declined. I was content with my life. Still, Melissa's words stung, and I never tried to ask her out again. After Daniel and Melissa got married, things worsened. She slowly excluded me from their lives, never inviting me to their events. I missed my son's promotion celebration, their anniversaries, birthdays, and other gatherings. My son expressed his disappointment with his wife and even considered separating from her because she had become controlling and didn't want him to stay in contact with me. I advised him not to make any rash decisions and to give his wife a few more chances. Separation was off the table soon as Melissa became pregnant with a daughter. But even after that, nothing changed. She excluded me from the baby shower and gender reveal and didn't let me meet the baby at the hospital. I never complained because I didn't want to cause trouble. For 6 years, I continued to be excluded from my own son's family. I did manage to have a great relationship with my granddaughter, but Melissa began to put a stop to that too. I was at my wit's end and suspected Melissa was planning something drastic. My suspicions were confirmed when Daniel showed up at my house looking very downcast. "Daniel, you don't look well. What's the matter? Is something going on?" "Mom, I just can't do this anymore. I've tried everything, but things are only getting worse. I can't even talk to you without worrying about starting a fight at home." "Is Melissa creating problems again?" "Daniel, it's breaking my heart to see you like this. You don't have to come to see me if it means your troubles will get worse." "Mom, I need you in my life. I don't like the way Melissa has been trying to control me. I've been unhappy in this marriage for a long time now. I never thought she would create a divide between us. I even overheard her talking to her sister about how she planned to stop you from seeing my daughter." I was taken aback by Daniel's words, though not entirely surprised. Melissa had been acting very strangely, always making excuses when I asked to see my granddaughter. I had even offered to come by and see them, but she was always either busy or out with the baby. It was already suspicious, and now I was very anxious about what Melissa had planned. "Daniel, did you confront her about this? What does she even have to say for herself?" "Mom, what can I say to her? I always suspected Melissa was going behind my back, making decisions without consulting me. If I question her, she just screams at me and throws things. It traumatizes our daughter as well. That is not okay, Daniel. Look, if you don't want your child around me, I would understand. There can be many reasons why you might feel I shouldn't be in your daughter's life. I will respect your wishes." "Mom, are you crazy? Why would I ever do that? You are the best grandma and the best mother ever. I have absolutely no reason to stop my daughter from seeing you. Hell, my daughter would be devastated if her mother went through with this plan." Daniel looked stricken with grief and anger. It broke my heart to see my poor son suffering so much. He had truly made a big mistake in choosing his life partner, and I wish I had warned him. I didn't want to meddle in my son's relationship, so I kept my mouth shut. I didn't protest when Daniel pulled away from me because of his wife. I wanted him to be happy, even if it meant losing contact with him. Had I known what a horrible situation my son was in, I would have helped him sooner. I comforted him and said, "Daniel, ignoring these problems and remaining quiet is not a solution. You are clearly miserable and need help. You need to stand up to your wife for a bit. If she loves you, she will be willing to change." "Mom, that is never going to happen. I've begged her multiple times to get help. I suggested couples counseling and other things, but she just doesn't listen to me. I did my best, but I think it's time to cut my losses. I only see divorce as the ultimate solution. I think you should consider all aspects before you make a decision. Why don't you go home and try to talk to Melissa one last time? After that, I will support whatever decision you make." Melissa was a pretty wretched woman, but she was still Daniel's wife. Even if she didn't like me, I would have been happy if my son was happy. But Melissa had been really toxic towards my son, which became clear to me that day. I believe everyone should be given a last chance before being punished for their actions. For their child's sake, I hoped she would come to her senses and improve her behavior. My son was desperate for a change. I will give her one chance. I'll talk to her and lay down my terms. If she doesn't listen and tries to cut you out again, I will file for divorce. I'll talk to a lawyer and have the paperwork ready. I will only file if and when she messes up. Promise me you will let me know if that happens." "I promise I will let you know, Daniel. I can see that you are extremely unhappy and I feel really bad for you. I don't want you to live like this. If Melissa doesn't improve her behavior, I'm afraid it will start to affect my granddaughter as well. That is exactly why I have been considering divorce. You asked me to give her one chance, so I'm doing that. But if she tries to act smart, I won't have any second thoughts." I agreed with Daniel because I really didn't want him to be unhappy. If Melissa continued to be uncooperative and entitled, he deserved to separate from her and live a healthy life. I wanted my grandchild to have a healthy home life as well. Daniel went home and talked to his wife about their problems. To no one's surprise, she blew up at him, calling him names and accusing him of choosing his mother over her. They had a massive fight. However, this time things turned out a little differently. Melissa saw that Daniel wasn't backing down or caving into her demands. He was adamant about standing up against her, which was a big blow to her. Daniel later told me, "Melissa didn't expect me to stand my ground, Mom. I think that's part of the reason why she asked for a second chance and promised to improve herself. She even promised not to cut you off from our daughter." It sounds too good to be true, Daniel. I have this gut feeling Melissa's just lying to pacify you. I won't lie, Daniel, but I feel the same way. Still, she has asked for a chance. Give it to her and wait to see if things get better. I'm doing that, Mom, but I'm also talking to my lawyer just in case. I will get the paperwork done. You don't have Melissa like I do, Mom. I can see right through her. She won't keep her promise to me, I just know it. The weariness in Daniel's voice really did break my heart. For years, I nursed my own wounds caused by Melissa and was unable to bear her behavior. I had no idea how much worse my son had it with her. She had completely broken his spirit and didn't even acknowledge her wrongs. Straight away, Melissa was a heartless woman, and Daniel was right about her. What Melissa did next proved Daniel's fears were justified. About 2 weeks later, I called Melissa to tell her I was coming over. It had been a while since I had seen my granddaughter, and I decided it was time for a visit. I knew they were out of school for summer break and had plenty of time to hang out with me. Plus, Melissa had promised Daniel not to cut me off from my granddaughter, so I didn't need her permission to see them, and she didn't bother to stop me. I thought maybe Melissa was finally letting go of her controlling behavior and whatever anger she had towards me. Oh boy, was I wrong. When I rang the doorbell at my son's house, Melissa opened the door but didn't ask me to come in. "What do you want, Victoria?" "Daniel is not home, and I'm kind of busy right now. I've come to see my granddaughter. It has been a long time since I've seen her. I was missing her, so I thought I would drop by." "I don't think this is a good idea, Victoria. My daughter is not available right now. Sorry to say that you can't see her today." I was a little taken aback to see the same version of Melissa that I saw last time. Daniel had been telling me that Melissa was acting well at home, but he didn't trust her completely. I thought he was being a little paranoid. Nope, my son was right. Melissa showed no signs of change whatsoever. Since I was already at her home, I decided to try my luck again. I said in a serious tone, "Melissa, I know my granddaughter is not at school. Her school is on summer break, and I asked Daniel before I came here. He confirmed that my granddaughter is home." "Well, yes, she is home, but you still can't see her." "What? Why not? You have been keeping my grandchild away from me for a while now. I won't pretend that I didn't notice, but I don't understand what the problem is." "Melissa, you need to tell me why I can't see my own grandchild, because I don't want you to see her ever again. She's my daughter, and I get to make those decisions as I please, and I've decided not to let her mingle with you anymore." "You are still not telling me why you're doing this, Melissa. This is unfair and unjust both to me and to your own daughter. Don't you dare tell me what's right for my daughter. The reason for you not to see her anymore is simple. My child doesn't need to be around a loser like you." Melissa said this with so much venom that I found myself taking a step back in shock. She straight up called me a loser and told me that my granddaughter shouldn't be associated with someone like me. She made me feel small and unworthy of being in my own family's life. I was humiliated but also extremely angry. I asked Melissa angrily, "What the hell does that mean, Melissa? Why are you calling me a loser and insulting me like this? What makes you think this is okay? You need to explain yourself. Do I need to go into details about how unworthy you are of associating with us? You are a poor woman with no wealth or social status. We have a good reputation in this city, Victoria. Your son works in a high position at his office, and my daughter goes to the most prestigious private school here. I am also a woman of high status. Our family is simply too above you and your trash lifestyle. If anyone had ever told me that people could be so cruel towards their own family, I wouldn't have believed them. But I was wrong about the world. People like Melissa simply didn't care about anything other than material wealth and status. Yes, I was a poor woman. I'm still a poor woman. My son had offered me a lot of things, but I had declined his help. I wanted him to have the best life possible without having to shoulder my responsibilities. I didn't care about my lifestyle at all. I was never interested in climbing up the social ladder and living in luxury. My simple life was good enough for me, especially since I didn't have to depend on anyone. I had no idea that would become a problem for Melissa. I had no idea that my simple life would prevent me from being in my own granddaughter's life. I was shocked and hurt. I said, "What does my simple life have to do with my granddaughter? I know I can't give her much material stuff, but her dad already does that for me. She doesn't even complain when I don't bring her extravagant gifts." That's the problem, Victoria. I don't want your trash life rubbing off on my daughter in any way. It's already pretty embarrassing that everyone knows Daniel's mom is a freaking loser. If my daughter continues to have you in her life, she might end up being a loser like you. I want her to be successful like me and her father. I can't risk her becoming like you. You were being extremely shallow and unfair, Melissa. None of what you said will happen. My granddaughter needs to have her grandma in her life. You need family too, along with material wealth. She already has a set of good grandparents, Victoria. My parents are rich and come from a high-status family. Their love and influence will be perfect for my little daughter. She doesn't need you in her life, and we don't need you in our lives either. We have plenty of money and connections to have a good life. I was absolutely fuming with what Melissa said. It was at that moment I realized how messed up she was. No wonder my son was at the end of his wits. Since I didn't see Melissa much, I didn't know how shallow and superficial she could be. I was actually thanking my lucky stars that I didn't have to deal with her more than I had. It also made it clear to me how miserable my son really was living with her all the time. Everything that came out of Melissa's mouth sealed my resolve to encourage my son to divorce her. With my mind made up, I smiled at Melissa and gently told her, "I think you are a little wrong in your assumption, Melissa. My son has a lot of wealth, but from what I gather, you don't have a penny to your name right now. You're already drowning in credit card bills." "What the hell do you mean? I'm married to Daniel, so his money is my money too. I have the sole right to owe his wealth. I'm his wife, after all." "Well, you won't be his wife for long, Melissa. Actually, my son is going to file for divorce very soon. I hope you remember that you signed a prenup, and that prenup clearly said that you won't get anything from him in case of a divorce." Melissa looked scared for a while before she schooled her expression back to normal. She looked at me very nonchalantly as if what I was saying was far-fetched and impossible. But I could tell she was nervous, especially because she knew that Daniel had already warned her about a divorce if she didn't behave. She looked at me dismissively and said, "You can dream on, Victoria. Daniel would never divorce me. He won't be able to be without me. I can control him well enough. Did you forget how I made him limit contact with you?" "Yes, you did throw a tantrum to make him limit contact with me, but he only agreed because I wanted him to save his marriage with you. That was actually the first time it hit Daniel what a messed up woman you are. Over the years, all of your controlling behavior slowly made him consider divorce." "Oh, he can consider divorce all he wants, Victoria. I know for a fact that he will never go through with it. He won't destroy our perfect family and leave me destitute." "You can believe what you want, Melissa. Don't say I didn't warn you. I will be leaving today without seeing my granddaughter because I know I will be able to see her soon. As soon as my son divorces you, I will be back in my granddaughter's life. For now, I'll let you have this last power move." I turned around to leave as Melissa went back into the house which soon wouldn't even be hers anymore. I got into my car without any regret and called my son right away. When he picked up, he already sounded weary and resigned. He said in a troubled voice, "Let me guess, Mom. Melissa didn't allow you to see my daughter. She did exactly what she wanted to do and took no consideration of mine or our daughter's feelings." "You're right, Daniel. Apparently, she didn't want her loser mother-in-law to influence her daughter to live like a poor person. So she thought cutting me off would be better and spare your family from the humiliation of having a loser grandma like me." "What the hell, Mom? She said that to you? Oh God, what is even wrong with her? I can't believe she would say these things to my own mother. I'm so sorry you had to hear those things, Mom. I can assure you it's not true. You are the best mom and grandma ever." "I don't think I'm the best mom or grandma, Daniel. I wasn't attentive enough to know how miserable you were in your marriage. If I had known before, I wouldn't have advised you to give Melissa so many chances. I'm sorry for not being a better guardian. I guess you were right. Divorce would be a good move for you. Don't blame yourself, Mom. I was equally responsible for not telling you everything about my life and just going along with Melissa to keep the peace. That won't happen anymore. I will file for divorce today itself. I'm done being manipulated and I'm done raising my daughter in a toxic household. We both deserve better. That night, Daniel showed up at my door with his clothes, and he brought my granddaughter along as well. He had filed for divorce and told Melissa about it. Apparently, Melissa had flipped out and started to attack Daniel for leaving her. She didn't want to get a divorce and lose Daniel's money that she had been relying on. They started off having an argument until it escalated, and Daniel had to call the cops on his wife. Yes, she was hitting him in front of their daughter, who was crying her eyes out. My poor granddaughter was traumatized and was clutching my son because she was scared her father was hurt. What followed after that night was truly shocking. Melissa went to take her parents' help to make Daniel stay. Like I said, she didn't even have the money for a lawyer and thought her parents would be of help. Imagine her surprise when her parents closed the door in her face and told her to never contact them again. Also, she had been disinherited a while back. Now, why did her parents take such a drastic step? Well, they didn't support her entitled and abusive behavior. They were furious with her for hitting my son and traumatizing our granddaughter. Something else came out as well, which they had told us and the CPS workers. Melissa was abusing my granddaughter. She was starving her because she didn't want her to get fat. A lot of other things came out, and Melissa lost custody of her daughter. I won't go into detail about their messy divorce and all the details of abuse that came out in court. I'll just say that they were able to get divorced in a year. Melissa lost custody, and Daniel got my granddaughter full-time. I moved in with him to help out. Both Daniel and my granddaughter are in therapy, and my son actually had a protective order against Melissa for the physical abuse. Shortly before the divorce was finalized, Melissa had shown up at my door to beg me for forgiveness. She wanted my help to get her marriage and child back. Suffice it to say, I kicked her out instantly. Right now, I'm having a good life with my son and granddaughter, who are happy to be rid of that horrible woman. It looks like we will be okay, while Melissa is off working at a convenience store after losing everything and becoming the poor loser she didn't want to be.